Hello, and welcome to Legacy Leaders, presented by the Center for Worship and the Arts at Samford University. Legacy Leaders is an opportunity for those serving in worship ministry to gain wisdom from seasoned professionals in their field. Our goal in sharing this conversation is that experienced members of the worship ministry would be able to provide powerful insight for other worship pastors, ministers, and leaders through their testimonies. Today, we will hear from Jonathan Rodgers, our faculty fellow at the Center for Worship and the Arts, and Mark Cottingham, the recently retired minister of music from Johnson Ferry Baptist Church, after 35 years of faithful service. Prepare to gain something from this exchange on mentorship in the worship ministry.
So, Mark, I think probably one of the first questions that might be helpful for us to think about, and would love to hear you chime in on, talk to us about, rewind the tape, who were some of those early influences in your life that really pointed you into the direction of ministry and worship?
Of course. Well, Gene Black had a big influence in my life. He was director of the a cappella choir.
As he had an influence on many people over many years.
Really loved that community. That was a big part of my involvement here, as being a part of that choir, and the ministry there was off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
And so he meant a lot to me as a mentor type. Also, Bob Hatfield, Samford graduate. He was the worship pastor over at Johnson Baptist Church here locally in Birmingham. And I was from a little small town, and Bob really took me under his wing. I didn't really know what this was going to look like going into the ministry, but somehow they saw something in me. They hired me to be a part-time something over at Dawson, like an intern, assistant type. And he really poured into my life as a mentor consistently. It was a very meaningful time. I tell people often that, again, I was from a small community there, and that there were more people in Sunday school and worship there at Dawson than what lived in my whole town. So, so
Wow.
Getting a picture of that large-scale ministry at Dawson was really great experience for me. So, Mr. Hatfield, Dean Black, Brother Bob, man, all those guys, really, in my younger days, I'm very thankful for that, for sure, no doubt.
What I love, the thread I hear in all that, Mark, is just the consistency that is that person taking time out.
Oh, yeah.
And just, hey, I want to come with me,
Yeah.
walk with me, and I want to show you something. And then
Something special. And I really...
the perspective shift that comes just in that initial start of a conversation.
Of course.
Mark, you just recently completed what we would call a shifting of the gear in your ministry. You have retired this past summer. This is 2023 when we're recording this interview. So I know there's a lot of reflecting, a lot of looking back, but also a lot of looking forward to what's next, and a new season, and just all that God has for you coming up. But rewind the tape a little bit. We've got listeners who are starting in ministry. We've got listeners who've been into ministry, maybe in the middle of their career, but all of us could probably benefit. Hey, what do you wish? What would Mark in the seat right now say to younger Mark when you were starting your ministry? Looking back, what have you learned? What do you wish you could tell your younger self?
I think that I look back over these years. God bless my socks off the opportunity to be at Johnson Ferry all those years. Love the church, love those people. It really has become our home, that area, and all. I mean, all of our kids were all born there in Atlanta, and when I left the staff, into May, I had several kids, if you will, really your age, that their kids were in our student choir. It was really a full circle moment.
Wow.
Very cool. Our kids, they were in my student choir who were in the adult choir, several. Really loved that.
That's great. What a picture.
But yeah, I think there were some things that have been really important to me, not just as a pastor, but as a believer, as a, just an individual. I have always had a really strong passion to be the best steward possible of God's blessings on my life. I think He's given me great opportunities, that wonderful and undeserved, but I always wanted to do the very best I could at maximizing and being thankful for His blessings, whether it be, my walk with Jesus, my family, and my work. I want to maximize. I have wanted, felt like then and now, I want to maximize every angle I can for His gain. I never wanted to look back and go, man, I wish I'd have done this. Just feel like I've really left it all on the field, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important whether you're 22 going to the ministry, or you're 52, or you're 62, whatever, just to be authentic, to be transparent. Don't pretend to be somebody else. You know, well, that guy, I want to be like him. Well, just be yourself. Allow God to use your own giftedness, your own personality. For me, I feel like it's been important, if you're married, I was married, I am married, to listen to my wife. I feel like God speaks to me often through Rebecca, and I'm grateful for that. Sounds so basic. It's so true, though, especially as you're walking through life and ministry, to keep, you've heard these, but just keep your priorities in the right order. Keep your relationship with Jesus up front, first place. Your family comes second. And then third, really the success of your work. Any variance of those is not going to be fulfilling for you. I also, just in line with that too, I've never wanted who I am in the workplace to define me. God assigned me to a wonderful job. I'm thankful for that. I was really blessed. I wanted to do the very best I could. But I never wanted to be, I'm Mark Cottingham, Johnson Ferry. No, I'm Mark Cottingham. I'm always going to be a child of God. I'm always going to be Rebecca's husband. Always going to be a dad to Sarah, Andrew, and Benjamin, now father-in-law. Oh my goodness. And a grandpa. Those are the things to me that matter the most when you're considering a legacy. And some guy that's starting out, again, like I was back when, those things are not on the, but it's just important. Those are foundational things you've got to keep in mind as you go forward, and just to build on. And for me also, I felt like it's always been, when I'm home, to keep your focus on your family. I would say that for a young guy, a young Mark, look, man, it's going to be there tomorrow. You're good. Leave it there. I wasn't great at that. I was pretty bad at that. Rebecca said, yeah, you need to look in the mirror on that one, buddy. But just to leave it there. I felt like, with our kids, whether you too, I'd look at you and say, you got 18 years to invest in your child. Don't mess up. Be a wise, consistent steward of that blessing that you and Alicia have. And I think also as a younger person, it's important. So so busy, but still find, God's gifted you. Find some time to develop the talents. Don't let your schooling when you were 21 or whatever, that's the only time you ever try to hone your craft. Get better. I think I've always kept it a real priority for me to do regular physical exercise. Love that. For me, I love being a runner. I enjoyed that. I also, for me, again, whether you're young or middle or whatever, finding some people that you can pour into your life, like a group of individuals that, for me, I've been meeting with these guys, 3 or 4 guys, almost weekly for a long time, for several years, where we can pray together, be accountable to one another, pointing us each other to Jesus, sharpening our lives, asking questions, how you doing?
You guys are kind of sort of in a similar station in life, kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Kind of
our
walking
kids
through
were all
similar
kind of the
things.
same age. That was good.
Yeah.
We've been doing that for a long time, but that was good for me. I think it's good for anybody to have some people that you trust and all that you can listen to and then pour back and forth into each other. That was good stuff. So.
That kind of moment, I've found, certainly probably over the past now decade, for me, they just are they help me reset perspective. It's easy to have a group like that that you're with, and kind of it pulls you out of the day-to-day grind, and just helps me stay a little more grounded, and to not to lose sight of what's really going on, the priorities you talk about. I remember, now being mid-career and remembering back, which is weird to be able to say I'm now able to remember back in the early years of my ministry.
You still look like you're 23.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Good genes. Looking back, I remember just that you have that energy, and there's a drive there, and like you said, you get through with school, and you're like, okay, you feel like you've turned the chapter on the learning phase, and now it's time to go do it,
But you don't ever turn the chapter on the learning phase.
But that's exactly right. Exactly right. You never turn that chapter. It never.
I believe that. I can't say that I was always amazing at it.
Yeah.
But you always want to be a learner.
Yeah, the lifelong learner piece. I think has been a challenge, but it's easy to get your nose down to the grind that you do throw yourself into your work. And I've had those priorities you mentioned, I have felt them shift.
Yeah.
And it's I think those are kind of things that you're speaking to that seem to, I think they're always going to be there. I think, and it's more in our current society. It's we are so defined by what we do.
Yeah.
By the label, the job title, or even where the degree comes from, or whatever, and finding your identity outside of that.
Absolutely. But again, so many people, so many ministers, they do that. Where they define themselves by what they do, or who they are.
Yeah.
And I am Mark Cottingham, and I am First Baptist somewhere. Well, no.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that we get to do for a season. I was
right.
blessed to sit in that corner office in that chair for 35 years plus years. That was great. I don't know how that happened. I'm just a guy from a little small town that somehow God said, I want you to do this and go there. And I'm like, okay, I want to go there. I don't want to mess it up. I want to be the best I can for God, not for me.
Yeah.
But that's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was blessed to be a part of good stuff. But it's not who I am.
Yeah.
That was wonderful things that I was able to do for that season in my life, but that is not who I am. Those are things that I love it. Love to be a part of it. Blessed to be a part of it, but I didn't want that to define who I am. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It absolutely does.
I think any young guy, and I remember, Jonathan, we talked about this a while ago. For years I was, doing the church a lot smaller when I came, but student music stuff. I really poured myself into that. Really, it was weak when I came, so I was like, man, we're going to work hard to make that happen. Eventually it really grew, and it really grew beyond what I could do. And the church grew, ministry grew. I got to where I couldn't even remember all the kids' names. It was time for me to get another staff member to pour into that individual and them to take that ministry. But that was hard for me to let go. I wanted to get, I'm Mark Cottingham. I like this ministry, and that was on my lapel. But when I let that go finally, it was kind of humbling. Where, it's kind of like, oh, I thought you guys knew who I was. I was the guy.
Yeah.
Same thing now. I've retired.
Yeah.
Love that church. Love being a part of that. I'll still go there and be a member. But those were wonderful memories, wonderful ministry I was able to do vocationally.
Yeah.
For that time in my life. And
sure.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking too. Again, being more mid-career, and the conversation I'm having with guys, my friends, comrades, counterparts at other places, is this word burnout. And I think this wasn't a plan to be a topic, but it connects, I think, is what you've said there is when we are not defined by what we're doing, I think that's an antidote to burnout. But when we are so tied to what we do and our performance and that identity, I think it's easy. Guys burn out much quicker. Like the tenure for staying in ministry is just getting shorter. There are fewer and fewer who are hitting the 35 plus mark, and I just wonder if it's because their lives have been completely engrossed and wrapped up in those tasks, in the doing, in the identity, in the title, as opposed to really their identity being in Christ and who
it's a
God
dead
is.
end.
It
is. It leads right to it, But really, I feel like if you're pliable, you're open, you're listening to the Holy Spirit, that you're focused on Him first. And I'm finding my identity as a believer and focusing as, if you're married, being a wonderful husband, being a godly husband, a godly dad, investing in the right places.
Yeah.
Those other things are wonderful opportunities, but that's not a legacy that is something that's going to last forever.
Mark, of course, being rooted here, the Center for Worship in the Arts at Samford, we are focused on training the next generation of leaders, specifically of worship leaders, worship ministry leaders. Yeah. I think it's helpful to just pause and focus in on how to help them start well. So give us some words of wisdom, maybe specifically to the generation that's the junior or the senior or maybe recently graduated, that's out and getting started in their ministry.
For me, I've looked at worship ministry or worship pastor, whatever, in a form of a relationship in different ways, really. First of all, talked about it a little bit already, just worship. Our worship is an expressive part of who we are with God, expressing our heart to God. We come to dialogue with Him, to tell Him how awesome He is, to listen, to learn of His ways. It also is a relationship with our congregation. For us, being in worship ministry at Johnson Ferry all these years is a moving target. I mean, we've adjusted, we've added services, we've redefined who we are, and all these things, though, we've had an unusual unity in our congregation amidst the change. Mm-hmm. So I think understanding who we're worshiping with is important. It may not be exactly the style, that you would like to be, but where's God placed you at this stage of your journey?
Sure.
I think it's super important too for a worship pastor person to that relationship between the lead pastor, the senior pastor, and the worship pastor is incredibly important. It's crucial. Mm-hmm. You've got to have a common agreement on who we are, where we're going, how does this fit into the big purpose of the church, agreed upon ministry style, the communication, the leadership style, refining that relationship, having a oneness of mind, being able to disagree on the minor issues, and really just understanding who the lead shepherd is, and it's not you as the worship pastor.
Yeah.
I look at that sort of like a marriage. If you, and that's weird, but this guy that you're going to be serving with, I was blessed to serve with the same lead pastor for over 32 years.
Wow.
Do we always agree on everything? Well, no. Oh my goodness, but to respect him, God had called him to lead the church. Mm-hmm. My role is to support him and to be able to flesh out that vision that he had for ministry and to be a part of that.
Sure.
So sometimes it was, agreeing to disagree on some minor things there, but know who has the ultimate say, and it wasn't me. But mutual respect, I feel like he listened to me. So I worked with the same guy a lot of years, and then here in the last part of my career, the last 3 or 4 years, we had a new pastor, a younger guy. Mm-hmm. Fantastic transition from this man who'd been the pastor all those years into this individual. And we had a good relationship, really good, with the new lead guy. Yep. And that's been great. I feel like it was good. I appreciate him sort of valuing me as a individual who's been there for a long time, and just some good mutual respect there with him. So, yeah. But yeah, so also a relationship between the staff, the team members, relationship to a purpose. This is where we're going. Our church has had a clear purpose of this is who we are and this is where we're going. And what you're doing in worship ministry, how does that fit into that? Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, well, then you need to realign,
Yeah, that's right.
I think just also, I mentioned this earlier, just a relationship to being authentic, trying to be wise. And you can see so quick someone a worship leader, this authentic and transparent versus someone who does not have God out front. That drives me crazy. Hey man, is that spotlight on me pretty good? It's not about that. It's about God. We're trying to put God out front.
That's right.
And just making your own personal worship that first priority, having time with Jesus every day. All the things we talked about already, just communication, focus on your family, and really most importantly, a relationship, if you will, to the audience of one.
That's right.
And our connection to Jesus Christ is absolutely, it's the most important relationship in experiencing inspiring worship. The quality of our personal time with Jesus will be a direct parallel to the success of any corporate worship leader. We serve an audience of one in the drama of worship, and he wants an authentic heart, most of all.
Yeah. Mark, I've just a word of testimony about what you're sharing there is, again, speaking just candidly with you,
yeah.
I just have seen that in your ministry, even from afar, and even as in the more distant ways that I've been a part, not somebody who's been directly in your choir and your ministry or your congregation, but I know you, I know the people that have served with you and been in your ministry and have met just through the connections we have naturally with Johnson Ferry and our own family. Just that kind of impact that you have has been evident, and I just, on behalf of all of them, say thank you. I remember one of the many albums that you've recorded and released as an incredible singer over the years, but the one that stands out is that song "Audience of One" that was on one of those albums, and just the way you have led on the platform. It's just evident that it's not here about, we're not here, to watch you sing necessarily, or to watch and hear the choirs. It's
Right.
all of us we are shifting our attention and our focus and our gaze to look to the audience of one, the Lord Himself. And I'm so thankful for those services I've been a part of, and what I've seen and experienced out there.
I appreciate that. I do, and you're a good friend, Jonathan. I appreciate your kind words there. And I think that if you're there to see Mark Cottingham, you're out of luck. I mean, I've told people often, I feel like I'm God's sense of humor, that He wanted to just show that He could do whatever He wanted to through whoever. And like I said before, I grew up in a smaller community. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought I'm going to go into worship ministry and be at a large metropolitan area church. And but I've tried to be faithful to God, to be able to do the very best I could to put myself in a place where I could honor Him through what we're doing and maximize every angle I could for God. And blessed to be a part of that. It is not a Mark Cottingham thing. It is clearly a God thing. And I will always be grateful for that, for sure.
Amen. Mark, over your long tenure of ministry, anyone listening would imagine it's not always been easy. There's been challenges. It's not been, as some would say, rainbows and unicorns the whole time. There's challenges in ministry. Just walk us through maybe some examples. What's one or two situations that were just really some hard moments in ministry that you had to navigate, and how you worked through that?
Of course. I mean, I think one obvious thing right off the bat, I mean, I feel like God's blessed us with a lot of wonderful team members at Johnson Ferry, just almost, and blessed by that. I mean, this thing has not been about me. I've been able to be a part of a big team that's, we've been able to hire additional people as the church grew and all. But occasionally, I've either made a wrong decision or we just had the wrong person on the bus. And anytime when we've had to release somebody from their job, I mean, that's hurtful. That's really hard. I didn't like that one bit. I think that I'm not naturally I don't like confrontation, but that's part of the job.
Yeah, not many do.
It's not a fun thing. But so yeah, those were tough situations occasionally when we had to help someone understand that this is where we're going and you're not going to be a part of that. That was hard. I think one of the hardest things for me personally, and this was a real gut check time, if you will, was my wife, Rebecca, over 20 years ago, and she had some really rough health symptoms, really collapsed on one of these ministry trips we were on. And it was something that we had planned on a long time, and your wife was on that trip, actually. And I had dreamed about taking this trip, going international with it, and I had to leave the trip, take Rebecca home.
Wow.
It was rough, and her symptoms were chronic. I mean, 20 doctors a week at Mayo Clinic and all. That was a really hard time in our lives, but I think it was good for us in the long run, but really been a tough season to be able to really prioritize. It's kind of like the water hits the road there. What's most important to you?
Yeah.
The ministry or your bride, your family? And I feel like I made the right choice, but it was not easy.
Of course.
Our children were very young then. Sarah and Andrew and Benjamin were all younger, and I felt like a single dad for a long time. So anyway, that was one particular thing that jumps off the page for me. Yeah. Rebecca's doing great now, but tough season, no doubt, for sure. I feel like, again, you've got to put your money where your mouth is as far as what's most important.
Yeah. How fortunate you are and were at that time to have even through that difficult situation with Rebecca, which I remember those early days of meeting Alicia, and that maybe there was still some things y'all were walking through that maybe were a year or so or a few years removed from that, and just she would give updates on kind of how things were and what was going on, and just the Lord working through that. where I was going was just say, just the church community. I know praying for you all and just kind of walking alongside of
Church
you all.
very supportive and all, but again, I had to, like I mentioned earlier, you had to put your priority where it needed to be.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Appreciate their support through that, but it's
Absolutely.
all good. All
Yeah.
good. I feel like we're better through it, but it was a hard part of our lives.
Sure.
For sure.
Praise God for his faithfulness. in
Yeah.
it. Mark, I think anyone that knows you and the ministry you've had for so many years at Johnson Ferry knows that your engagement with young people, youngest to the oldest, but specifically with children and students, has been really remarkable. Just a real testimony to God's work in your church, and just the ministry that you've had to families, not just to like one sector or one age of the church, but to all ages in the church. Here at the Center for Worship and the Arts, that is a priority for our work, and we just think it's important to ask you, like, why was that a part of y'all's ministry, and how does it looked, how has it evolved over the years, specifically again just working with the ministry to children in worship in the arts and students worship in the arts?
I'm glad you asked that question, because I just realized I left out a really important mentor in my life, and that was our minister of music at a little home church down in Centerville, Alabama. Connie Hale was my minister of music, if you will, growing up. She was there for 25 years, really good friend. Great. And strong mentor in my life, really poured into my life, even before the coming to Birmingham and all. When I made a decision to follow Christ, Connie really, humongous impact on Mark Cottingham for sure. Yeah. And Connie, fantastic ministry, children and children's music, and so I kind of saw that lived out when I was there and spent a lot of time with her, hearing that, learning about that. And so when I was at this church we worked at in Texas, out in North Dallas and Plano, that was a big priority, and we had good success with that. And then Rebecca and I moved to Atlanta, from this church back whenever, 87. And the ministry to students and children and all, it was really weak, to be honest with you. There was not a lot happening there, and they had a lot of hurt and baggage. And church was good, large and all, but the ministry of music and all had lagged behind, especially in the children's and the student world. And I'm like, this doesn't work with me, because I had just grown up just knowing that the children's thing was super important. Children's music, that foundational part, through Connie's ministry. And so that became a very strong priority, and for Rebecca and I, going forward there at Johnson Ferry. And as the church grew, even from the get-go, the children's music thing was always a huge priority for me. When I came to Johnson Ferry in the fall, church had about 800 or 900 in Sunday school, but I had a full-time ministry assistant who I came on a Monday, and she quit the previous Friday before I got there. It's like, okay, here we go. Nowhere to go but up, yeah. And so, as the church grew and we caught up on some of that, they were talking to me about hiring our first associate type person. I said, I want somebody full-time that does children's music. And, well, don't you want something? Or somebody didn't know, I want children's music. That's important to me. And some of that was kind of in my head from my days under Connie Hale. And so that children's music thing really became super important for us. And as that grew, so grew another thing that's really important to me, and that was student choirs, student music. And when we were in Texas, we had good success there, and we came here to Johnson Ferry, and it was weak. A lot of baggage there. Like the middle school choir team, Rebecca did that for about 10 years herself. I did the high school choir. We did that together, and just raising up, building, and pouring into that next generation of worship leaders there, worshipers. And for me as a worship pastor, that children's music and student choir, student music, very important. And God used that and really grew that. I can't claim that it was me, but like I was telling you earlier, 35 years ago, Rebecca went to middle school choir to take that, and she had 8 kids. She came home, she was kind of weepy. This is pitiful, Mark. Oh my gosh, Oh,
man.
And last Wednesday, ironically, full circle moment, my daughter Sarah's now on the ministerial staff at Johnson Ferry, and she does student choir. She does the student music herself.
Mm-hmm.
And last Wednesday, I believe Dad, we had 130 in middle school choir.
Unbelievable.
Like, that's the only God.
7th and 8th?
6th, 7th, and 8th, 3 grades, 130 kids.
Wow.
People are like, well, wow. I mean, certainly the church, it's a big church. I know that. A lot of people there.
Sure.
But a lot of folks are, student choirs don't work anymore. Well, they do at our address.
Yeah.
And very thankful to be a part of that and watch that. I just like to go see what God's doing.
I love it.
That's a very important part of it was always a huge priority for me.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and I think just to piggyback off what you said, some places, there's the conversation that, oh, this doesn't work, this ministry is tired or not as effective. But I think you said it works because you've made it a priority for it to work.
It does.
And it wasn't just you, but it was your leadership, I think, and the buy-in of the rest of the staff, right? The rest of the team to see the value in that. There's no one there like undermining what you're trying to do, but everybody's like, we see the value in reaching these students.
Of course.
And
I can't really say that I came there and it was like, man, I was a hero and it blew up and did great right off the bat. It took a long time.
Took some time, yeah.
It took a long time.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff, I thought I was going to come in and, man, this thing's going to just go great right off the bat. It just didn't. But again, I never felt like, whether it be children's music, hiring that full-time associate to do that ministry, to take that thing to another level.
Yeah.
Or student choirs, I never gave them the leftovers.
Yeah.
I'll do this, but that's just kind of something that was priority for me. And it was.
And the students can smell that if it's leftovers. You
I
know what I
hope
mean?
so.
They can smell when you're not really into it. You're just
Mm-hmm.
kind of, there's something, maybe there's some other reason it's there while you're there. But when they know, as my own wife, my bride knows, because she was in that ministry with you and Rebecca, and just the impact that it had on her life, and not just the ministry, but it was just the connection point that they had with you, like the worship leader and pastor and his wife.
Yeah, I get that. Love that. Love those opportunities. In the Mark Cottingham ministry, though, Rebecca and I just got the ball rolling. God took it from there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's persistent, staying on that and really making it a priority, as you mentioned. It was. Yeah. It's always been a priority, not to get the leftovers, give the very best I could with that ministry. And the Lord took that and said, okay, here we go. And it's a wonderful part of the arm of ministry at our local church there in Marietta, really is. And like, we're having lunch and coffee with a couple of kids that are students here at Samford today at lunch. One's in law school. One of them is a first semester freshman. All of those kids, both those kids are people that have come directly out of the ministry at Johnson Ferry. The relationship thing, like you said, has been really important.
How about that? Mark, as we get ready to wrap up with our time together, certainly want to look back and say, just again, thank you for your leadership, your ministry, the impact on not just hundreds but thousands of people. Obviously, the congregation that has come through at Johnson Ferry, the number of students that you've impacted, the number of students that you've even sent here to Samford over the year. I mean, you've remarked it's easily over 100.
Best choice for them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Exactly. And but let's talk about, what are some of those highlights, those wins that we might classify in ministry? There's big moments. There's the day-to-day. But what are some things that really stand out as some great wins over the many years of ministry that you've had now?
I think some of the highlights, obviously, anytime we're able to take what we do on a weekly basis and go outside the walls, that's been super meaningful for us and our team members. A couple of times we're able to take our adult choir and our orchestra from Johnson Ferry overseas to Romania.
Wow.
Fantastic trip for our team, and I really appreciate, the partnership with our global team and all was off the charts. And so to take that was so meaningful for those people, and to take that there. And then, of course, you and I were together on this Israel trip with our choir and orchestra in 2022. That was on my bucket list to do. And
incredible experience.
Rebecca and I had been on a couple of our pastors' Israel trips, study tours and all, but so this was different, though, taking our worship teams and having that worship component in Israel, in the most special place on the earth.
Exactly.
And I'll never, ever forget, this group of my people, our people, your people were there too. And
that's right.
being on the the steps of the Temple Mount,
Yeah.
singing in Christ alone till
Ooh.
He returns.
That's right.
Or calls us home. Yeah, right there over there, Mount of Olives.
Yeah.
It's just surreal. So having that
Yeah.
experience was great. Anytime we were able to we've had a wonderful partnership with our high school choir team, being able to go to international trips to Poland.
Mm-hmm.
That's a crazy great opportunity. Even this past June of 2023,
Mm-hmm.
watching them doing ministry, I was just an adult leader. I was just one of the boys on the trip.
Mm-hmm.
Watching God use our team in Poland was really exciting, really fulfilling for me to see them taking that ministry into large public high schools, sharing the gospel everywhere. I mean, it was like they were on fire everywhere they went, and it was cool. And then I'd mentioned to you earlier, I mean, if you're the worship pastor, usually your kids are going to need to be in the student music. And Sarah loved that. Benjamin was okay with it. I can't really say that our middle child, Andrew, he never loved it. He played basketball, but you're my kid, probably need to be involved. And so he was. Usually he looked miserable, but then, gosh, Jonathan, I will never forget. We're in Las Vegas on one of these high school choir mission trips. I looked up and, oh my goodness, Andrew is into it. Look at that. He was connected via worship, and
wow.
I just couldn't believe it. It's such a wonderful ministry. I just wanted to turn and say, do you guys see that? What's going on? Oh my God. Call my wife, in tears. Andrew's into it. Can you believe it? It's cool. I mean,
amazing.
Loves the Lord and all that. I get that. That just was not his thing. But
sure.
It was that day. I got a little window. So
yeah.
I could go on and on, but those are some meaningful wins, those things outside the walls. Very cool for us.
Well, and I've been a part of those similar kinds of trips. Of course, you mentioned the Israel trip last year. There's something that's unique about, and I know you could talk about this, these people that you see on a week-to-week basis, or they're in a rehearsal, but in totality, you might see them for maybe, 2-3 hours at a time, in your ministry context, week to week. But when you get them out, I've always said you get a choir on a bus for an extended period of time, they're going to just sing better, just automatically.
No.
When you get them out and they're traveling, they're spending time together, they're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They're dealing with the fatigue. Something is just a unique space where some things happen that just don't happen on the daily.
That always drives me crazy. You'll see the choir out there, man, they are on fire. In Romania or wherever, Israel. And why can't we do that week after week? Is every service full of touchdowns? Man, I wish it was.
Yeah.
But
sure.
I do think that helping your people understand that expressive worship is engaging. It's so crazy important, for our team to set the pace and all. Really, those moments, if you will. Sunday, I'm talking week to week. They start. Where does that start? Well, it starts every weekday morning at your kitchen table with a worship leader's quiet time. Your personal time with God. I mean, you can't take somebody somewhere special if you hadn't been there. So that investing in that relationship with Jesus every day, so important. And some of those moments in worship, if you will, happen when the leaders are engaging, inviting, hey, let's go here, let's go there.
Yeah.
I've been there, man, it's good. I want to take you there. And so a moment happens when there's a sense of expectation, man, something good is going to happen.
Yeah.
Leaders and worshipers, we're all looking for and expecting something special. Why can't it be special on Sunday like it was in Romania? It can be. We just got to, just remember who it is. I've often think about we would be like on a Wednesday at a rehearsal. By Saturday night, I'm kind of like remembering what are we singing on Sunday? And then I do, I'm like, oh yeah, man, I can't wait to do that. I'm so looking forward to that.
Mark, thank you so much.
Thank
for
you for
your
the
time.
Thank you. I love it.
For your ministry, for sharing. I mean, we could sit here certainly for hours on end and hear of just what God has done in and through your ministry. But thank you for sharing this with folks who are early in ministry. I think some of our graduates, our students that are out, our current students that have recently gone out. But I know there are many in the community of worship pastors that you and I know that have been watching and working alongside of you in their different churches, but all doing the same kind of work. And we celebrate you, we cheer you on, we just applaud that you are shifting this gear and got to the finish line. We know many that would have been around a table of worship pastors that are no longer there for a whole host of different reasons that weren't able to finish well. So it is worth our time to stop and to just, I mean, we're saying yay God, but we are saying thank you for making it to the finish line and being an example to so many of us, and an encouragement to so many of us in the way you've led and how you've led over the years. So
you're very kind in
thank
saying
you, brother.
That. Thank you, and I appreciate that. I'm thankful for this university here at Samford. I love the ministry at 800 Lakeshore Drive. I will always be indebted to this place. And the individuals connected here or even outside that poured into my life. That's what you guys are doing now. And I pray for you all the time that the Lord will use you in a special way, like He used Brother Bob and others back when for me. And I would love to say it's a Mark Cottingham thing, and you and I know it's not. You know, I'm thankful to be a part of it. I love it. I love watching, love seeing what's going on. Just encourage those that are in ministry to stay faithful, do the very best for God in whatever way they can, take every advantage they can to put Him out front.
Yeah. Amen. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you for listening to Legacy Leaders. We pray this conversation is helpful for you in whatever your ministry looks like. For more information on the Center for Worship in the Arts and our upcoming events, visit www.samford.edu/go/CWA.